What's up, guys? Welcome back to Almost Functional 40K. Here today to talk about how I did yesterday at RTT I went to. So first, we'll go ahead and look at my list. This is a list I talked about on the Council of Fang. I don't know if I ever actually fully went into full list details, so we'll go ahead and show it here. So it's Champions of Rust. We got Herald Deathwolf, Lieutenant and Phobos Armor, 2 Battle Leaders, and a Wolf Lord. So the battle leaders in the Wolf Lord go with 1 6-man Thunderwolf squad. Herald and the other battle leader go with a second 6-man squad. And then the Lieutenant Phobos Armor runs with a Reaver squad, and I deep strike them. Then we have 2 Ballistus Dreadnoughts, 1 Infiltrator squad, 1 Outrider squad, 2 Reavers, one of them's with the Lieutenant, a Scout squad, the 2 Thunderwolves, and Canis Rex. So I was actually super happy with the way this was going in some of my test games, and I was actually really happy with how it worked at the event. So basically, with Canis there and the 2 big wolf squads, most people can only kill one thing in the first couple turns, one of the 3. So you either have a full wolf squad in Canis or 2 wolf squads getting into people. And that just seems to cause a really big problem. Scouts normally infiltrate right in the middle of the table, so that if I get second turn, they can scout behind a wall unchargeable and unshootable by most stuff, and just survive there and be there if I need them next turn. And if I get first turn, depending on what I draw, they either go back there to be safe or score some of my secondaries. The 1 Reaver squad that goes in reserve with the Lieutenant, you want to bring them in, sometimes with rapid ingress, but they drop in, they can shoot, move, and then hopefully get onto your opponent's backfield objective. And then they cause battle shocks and -1 OC. So there's a good chance that if you're able to get them there at the end of that phase or at the end of that turn, you will be controlling that and turn on Saga of Majesty for the whole army, which is huge. And if you rapid ingress them, you really don't have to drop too close, especially if you have Saga of the Warriorborn up, because you could always advance them, then shoot and move, and advance them, use the CP to give them advantage charge, then shoot and move, then charge. So they really, at that point, they have 6, 12, 18, potentially 30 inches to get to your opponent's backfield objective. So it's a really nice squad I like. And even sometimes when the enemy comes and tries to kill them back off, a lot of times they don't have a lot of stuff in the back there. So you might even have a chance of that Lieutenant living, even if they kill the squad in on the next turn, triggering Saga the Bear for you. So I really like that squad. The second Reaver squad, I normally deploy right at the point of my deployment zone, so that, because they have a scout move as well, so that scout up behind the ruin closest to me near the middle objective, so that they're able to either jump out toward the objective on the left or the middle objective to do actions once the scouts are gone, or cut off of people's OCs and deny them primaries. So I've been liking that really well. The Outriders, they're decently survivable for their point cost, and they're fast. They're good at cleaning skirmish. They're very sacrificial, so you can throw them out to do a containment or something early. Just very versatile, cheap unit. Infiltrators, I always deploy them on my home field objective and just block out that whole area. As I get into some of my games, I'll talk about how that went. 2 Ballistus, just to provide some shooting. They really don't need Oath most of the time, so you can use your Oath for your combat threats, because if the enemy unit they're shooting is above half strength, they can get full rerolls. So basically they have a built-in Oath against things that aren't already almost dead. And then Canis, sustained hits on all his combat and shooting. His big guns are blast, so he can really switch between picking up some little vehicles and stuff, or helping kill big units. And then when he gets into combat, he can swing 10 attacks at strength 10, neg 2 damage, or 20 attacks at strength, or 5 attacks at strength 20, neg 4, might be 3, but it's flat 9 damage. So he's just really, really useful. And then once they kill him, Sir Hector hops out, and he doesn't count as dead until they kill Sir Hector, who's just basically a little guard commander, 3 wounds, toughness 3, just like a little 4-up save. But it does make it hard to bring it down, since assassinates and stuff like that off of Canis. All right, so this was the Onslaught 2K out in Brandon, run by our good friend Lewis from Onslaught Gaming. Actually, speaking of Onslaught, I didn't turn on this. All right, he also has a YouTube channel where they do a lot of more versatile 40K stuff. I'm pretty much mostly Space Wolves. They get a little more into just some other armies and just generic 40K. But all right, my first game I played into Eldari, guy everybody calls Elfie, really, really nice guy. So he was running Aspect Host. He had Janezar and Lycus. He had a squad of Storm Guardians, 10 Dark Reapers, a Falcon, 2 5-man squads of Fire Dragons, 3 squads of Howling Banshees. One was with Janezar, Striking Scorpions, Skyrunner Warlock. Then he had 3 Warp Spiders. One was with Lycus, 2 Wind Rider units, 2 Wraith Lords. So Wind Riders each had the Warlock. One of the Warp Spiders had Lycus, and one of the Howling Banshees had Janezar. My brain was freezing. All right, so this mission was... We'll get to the mission in a minute. But so basically, he just deep struck one of the Warp Spider units, and he deep struck... What was the other thing? He had 2 things there. The Warp Spiders and... Oh, he had 1 Fire Dragon and 1 Warp Spider in reserve. All right, so ended up winning this 77-32. The mission was Scorched Earth. The deployment was Search and Destroy. No, Tipping Point. Yeah, Mission I, or Mission D. Yeah, so this was Tipping Point. And then, so I ended up getting to go first. So I scored Extend Battle Lines round 1. Got rid of Overwhelming Force. He drew Bring It Down to Sabotage. Wasn't able to score either. He did run his Falcon up, jump out some Fire Dragons, and shoot Canis. But I had him blocked out enough where he couldn't really get into Melter range. And the Exarch wounds decently, but everybody else in the squad is wounding on 5s. So he just really couldn't. I think he got 1 or 2, 3. He did like 3 or 6-ish damage to Canis. So nothing super impactful there. Then I was able to hold 2 objectives for 10. I was able to do 1 cleanse and containment. I was able to keep him down to a 5. He was able to do 1 cleanse. He had kept Bring It Down, and then still wasn't able to do it because I was keeping the Ballistus kind of safe for a counter. So we ended up discarding that then. Then I was able to get another 10. I was able to get a Secure, and then I got rid of Recover, kept him to another 5. He was able to get Assassinate and secure No Man's Land. He did end up killing... I think it was the Phobos Lieutenant that he got Assassination off of. But then I ended up getting over with some Wolves and finally just finishing off his backfield objective. So he was not able to score any more primary the rest of the game. He got 1 more Overwhelming Force. I got a 10 and a 15. The 15 is because I did end up burning 1 on the last turn. And then I got a No Prisoners. It was actually a fairly simple game for me. I've played 2 games into the new Eldar. One was Guardian Host, one was Aspect Host. I just found the Thunderwolves with their speed. If you don't shoot their units, that takes away one of their reactive moves. The Thunderwolves just have so many attacks, I'm able to get on them quick and shoot through them. I know Ynnari is the top Eldar right now. I haven't played into that yet, so that could be a much more difficult game. But right now I'm finding that this version of my Wolves, I don't seem to have much problem with Eldar, just because they don't have, depending on my list, I may run into some lists more, but so far for one of the experienced, they don't have the tools to dig through the Thunderwolves, and the Thunderwolves and the Ballistis, and I just melt everything they have, and I'm able to put such pressure on the middle that they really, really bully them off primary early in the game, and they just aren't able to kill me quick enough to get back into the game. So I know a lot of people are scared of Eldar, and they're doing well right now, but I'm finding this version of my list really doesn't have much problem with them. So that was my round one. So 77-32. There was, out of a 20-man event, I think there was 6 or 7 Eldari. So there was a lot of Eldari here. And then round 2, I end up playing into Righteous Crusaders, Black Templars. They had a Chaplain on a bike, High Marshal Helbrecht, Tech Marine, Emperor's Champion, 1 Intercessor squad, 2 Crusader squads. 1 was the Champion, 1 was with Helbrecht. An Impulsor that he had the Intercessors in, 1 Lancer, 1 Repulsor, Infiltrator squad, 5 and a 10. Outriders running with a Chaplain, and 2 Redemptors. I've played around with Redemptors, so I found them to be a little overpointed for what they do. And one of them was Gatling, one of them was Plasma. So I didn't think they were going to be much problem for the Thunderwolves. Repulsors and Lancers aren't great into Thunderwolves. He doesn't have the Primaris Sword Brethren. He has Primaris Crusaders, which I didn't think was going to be much of a problem for the Thunderwolves. So just looking at his list, I thought I matched up really, really well into it, and that ended up being the case. So we're not going to run too in-depth into this game. It ended up being 90-17. I just was able to keep him off primary all game, because Burden of Trust, you only score for stuff outside your deployment zone, even though you can, I believe, guard the one in your deployment zone. But I was able to just swarm on him and take his home early. He scored 5 no prisoners 1 turn, and he got a bring it down 1 turn for killing a Ballistis. But that's all he scored. His other 10 were from paint. He'd never played Wolves. He didn't exactly understand how the Blood Surge and stuff worked. I tried to explain it to him, but apparently he misunderstood it. So that may have helped him a little bit there if he'd understood what I was trying to tell him. But even so, I don't think he tops 30 points, and I don't think it really affects my score much. I just don't think that list plays well into mine. There are some Black Templar lists that could really, really give me problems. Just this one isn't one of them. So I don't want this to sound like I think Black Templars are bad. They actually can be a real problem for Space Wolves. Just he put a lot of points into shooting, but it was shooting that was inefficient into Thunderwolves, so that was just something I wasn't really worried about. Then round 3, I was top table. I was going in the round, I was number 1. David was number 2. David actually is the other player on my own almost functional team. One of my best friends. We've known each other forever. But it's been a while since we've actually got paired in a tournament, so this was interesting. We were basically fighting for first place. He runs the new Warpbane Task Force. He's basically going into this weekend was 12-0 or 15-0 at events running this. He hasn't lost since he came up with this version of the list. So we're both 2-0 going into this. So I was hoping to knock him off. So he runs Grandmaster and Nemesis Dread Knight. It's his only character in the list, which makes it really, really hard for assassinations, which is a really smart play on his part. Strike Squad, 1, 2, 3 Razorbacks, and 2 Rhinos. They all have Hunter-Killer missiles, which is nice. Then he has 1, 2 Inceptor squads, 3 regular Dread Knights, 2 Purifier squads, a 10 and a 5. And Dave is a really, really technically sound player. He's been playing Grey Knights for as long as I can remember, so he really, really knows his army well. So you really can't count on him to make a lot of mistakes. But that being said, this was a really, really close game for most of the game. This was on Terraform and Crucible of Battle. So as you see on primary, it was 8-8, 4-4, 4-4-8. So I was a little up, and then right there at the end, he managed to really, really pull it away from me. So he got so he ended up going first this turn. So turn 1, he got Established Locus. I managed to kill 3 of his transports, 2 Rhinos and a Razorback. and then one of them which was touching the middle objective, which he used to establish his locus. So that got me overwhelming force. Then I ended up getting a no prisoners. He got a overwhelming force of storm. So we were tied on secondary. I was up on that, up on primary. Then he got a 6 on a sabotage here. I got a 5 on area. Excuse me. Which so he was only up 1 secondary there, but I was now up 8 on primary, so I was up 7 overall. Turn 4 is really flipped. He drew area denial and assassination. So he ended up getting an 8 for primary. He killed Canis, and Sir Hector jumped out on the middle objective. And Canis was my only character left at this point because he'd killed all the wolves. So he needed to kill Hector to get his assassinate. So basically, he had a 10-inch charge with his Dread Knight to hit it. He rolled like a 5, CP'd it, and rolled a 10 or 11 to actually hit the charge, which ended up getting him into Hector. And he also hit like a 9-inch charge with a... All those guys look so much alike. I don't know if they were strike squads or purifiers or inceptors, but one of his squads hit the infiltrators. And once they're in combat, pretty much all his squads swing the same. So he was actually able to shut down my defend that turn. So what ended up happening was, if he fails that 10-inch charge and that 9-inch charge, doesn't hit them, he loses 10 points here. I gain 3 points, and then I gain 8 primary. So basically that was 8. So I lost 11, he gained 10. So that was a 21-point swing just right there. And if he doesn't hit that charge, I have Sir Hector alive in the middle. I get to draw... I still draw these. So the locus I was able to do, I would have been able to extend because Hector would have been in the middle and I would have still had my back. So that would have been another 5. So really, the whole game swung on whether or not he hit those 2 charges. If he hits the one into the infiltrators, it's going to be a tight game, and it would come down to some other things. Hitting the Sir Hector one really lost me the game. But hitting both win it from it being... So it's probably be like a 5-point game to making it a much bigger game. And we both knew that too. Talking into going into those charges, we talked about that like the whole game came down to what happened on those 2 charges. They did the Grandmaster one first because it was the most important. Spent the reroll, and then naturally hit the second one. But super tight game. I loved the way the list played. I feel like it had everything I needed to deal with his list. Just came down to that one turn. He should probably hit one of those 2 charges on average, in which case I think I can still pull it out. So I can't... So I'm happy with the list. A couple of things were different. I think I could have won that, and then I would have won the event. But I'm real happy for David because he's been going undefeated at the last few events. But the RTTs down here are so big that even 3-0, you don't necessarily win the whole event. So he's been getting second and thirds, going 3-0 all the time. So he was actually able to come in first because we both were kind of decently ahead of everybody. So you can look at the where'd it go? Placings here. So Dave got first. Another good friend of Nick, who you guys used to see on the channel. He hasn't been on as much lately because he's doing night shifts now. So our schedules really don't line up to be able to do any streaming together. But him and I still talk all the time. He ended up getting second with his Blood Angels, but he's doing the Blood Angel thing where he doesn't actually have any Blood Angel units. So he's running their detachment with all their rules, but no actual Blood Angel characters. So he still gets the extra bonus from Oath. Garrett got third with Eldari. He played another Eldari round 1, I think, and then with Odd, I think he pared down both rounds into an 0-1, and then to a 1-1. So the final standings take into account strength of schedule. That's why you see battle points. Nick had more than David, but David better strength of schedule. So that's what tanked Garrett down to third. Is just, I mean, there's nothing he could do about that. Just unlucky paring down all the time. His strength of schedule was worse. But then I had the best strength of schedule and stuff here. So I ended up 4th top of the 1 losses out of 20 players. So I was very well happy with that. So I don't think I'm going to make any changes to this list. I got an event this weekend, which will be a bigger RTT, I think more like 40 people. Then I got a GT the weekend after that. And then I have another RTT the weekend after that. So I got 4 weekends in a row. So depending on how it does this weekend, I will take most likely this list. Maybe 1 or 2 small tweaks depending on what happens next weekend. But I didn't see anything I wanted to tweak after this weekend. So a lot of events coming up here shortly. So I'll definitely be able to put a lot of content out. And just talk a little more about it Tuesday night when Nate and I do the Wolf Council. But if you stayed and listened to me ramble this long, please like, share, subscribe, all that cool stuff. And we'll see you guys next time.